Hello all. So we are back to our analogy of the Young's double slit experiment with respect to Spinoza's doctrine of modes. So as we saw in the previous video that the doctrine of modes is nothing but Spinoza's vision of unity. And just to give you a recap, here we have our electron or wave, whatever you want to call it, and the analogous to that is our substance with infinite attributes in Spinoza's language. Then we have the two slits, S1 and S2. Here, two slits through which the wave passes, and this is our process of perception that happens, and this itself can be defined as another through which substance is conceived. What this another is indescribable, and it is not really defined. So here we have another through which substance is conceived. Therefore here we have a process of constructive and destructive interference, and finally we have the pattern of dark and light fringes that we get on the screen, uniformly distributed pattern. And then we also have this property of intensity that is varying in our observation. So since I ended the previous video abruptly, and it was deliberately done because this analogy is just my interpretation of Spinoza, and there is absolutely no need to watch this video completely if a person is completely interested in philosophy and not interested in my interpretation or take on the same. So you can just skip the video, and that will be the end of part 1. However, this is just a supplement to part 1 where I highlight my own interpretations as I have understood it. So there can be many people who have understood it the same way, and I also happen to be one of them who subscribe to this analogy of Young's double split. So here basically we have the two modes. Yesterday we highlighted that we can have duality here as well, saying that there is a dark mode and there is a light mode. Or another interpretation can be that basically there are two modes indicating the two dimensions that humans can perceive, which is color and intensity. We have seen here intensity is nothing but shade of the color. So we have a different shade of dark, we have another shade of dark, 2 times darker than the previous shade, 3 times darker than the previous shade, usually expressed in ratios. So this is intensity is nothing but a shade, and here we broadly classify our two modes of perception. So this is our finite element of perceiving the form of the substance. So this is our limitation of the two dimensions, as Spinoza would like to call it, the color and the intensity. So this basic analogy does not stop with the rationalists. This color and intensity analogy is carried forward by the empiricists also, where we have Locke, our British empiricist, who defines some primary qualities and secondary qualities of substance, and he invokes the attribute of color, the quality of color, and then the quality of intensity. Then he goes on to bifurcate the primary quality and secondary quality. Then we have Berkeley coming in to refute Locke later, where he says that there is no clear distinction between primary and secondary qualities. They are interdependent, as in there is no need for labeling one as primary and the other as secondary. There is no such hierarchy between the two. One can be known through the other, and the other can be known through the one. So then we have Berkeley coming in, pitching this point of view between primary and secondary qualities, where he reconciles both of them and shows that they are the same. And in fact, we can know them only through each other. And so this little game carries forward to the empiricists as well. And probably in terms of relativity, or the subject that deals with cosmological entities usually that we come across. So in terms of relativity, our color can be analogous to matter, and our intensity can be analogous to energy. So here we have the matter energy dichotomy, and of course we know that Einstein reconciled both of them. The matter energy equivalence, the famous equation E is equal to mc square, where he had one constant stringing both the matter and energy together. So this game is, it's not limited to just Spinoza. It goes on and to define and describe the universe and its happenings at both the macro and micro scale. So here I've denoted P just to say that this color is analogous to some primary quality, intensity is analogous to some secondary quality as described by later empiricists. And in color we have dark and light, in intensity we have ratio. When we combine all three of them, we have various modes, probably infinite modes, and this ratio, intensity ratio, is infinite, highlighting that the finite is reconciled with the infinite. So for people who are still a bit perplexed, here is an example where I say what I mean by when I say that the color is primary quality, and color usually can be analogous to extinction, because that is how we know, that is how we perceive color. So you are perceiving this black color because it is extended in this area, and because of that extension you perceive this color which is black, and that extension stops exactly here from which white color starts, and therefore your perception of black color ends. So this is the property of extension of color. This is usually seen in the empiricist explanation. We can explore that later, not for now. So intensity also is analogous to thought, or usually perceived as not an extending entity. Intensity is something which can be expressed in terms of ratios, numerical, empirically, and doesn't carry the notion of extension with it usually when we have this, when we look at it from this point of view. So this is what we mean by the two modes of Spinoza, and this is how everything gets reconciled in the end. And I believe that the Young's double split is a fairly decent example to understand Spinoza's philosophy, especially his doctrine of modes.